Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Fun Fans Podcast. I'm your host, James Dillard. With me, as always, my co-host, Bailey Jackson. How you doing, Bailey?
I'm good. I hope everybody out there is good as well.
Doing great. We have a great show tonight. We're going to talk about week 3 of college football. We're going to point out the best things about a bye week and a good time to plan some of those things. I at least, may rant just a little bit. And we're going to talk about the relevant games from yesterday, of course. But first, the Fun Fans are a proud part of the Fanboys Fangirls Sports Podcasting Network. If you're a true sports fan, the Fanboys Fangirls is perfect for you. Find various nationwide podcasts and other sports media at thefanboys.com and all forms of social media. The Fun Fans Podcast is the official podcast for Clemson fans that love to eat.
And don't forget where to get your wings for the game. You can get them at Reuben's. There's 2 locations in the upstate, 1083 Batesville Road in Greer and 11028 Anderson Road in Piedmont. You can find them at ReubensC.com. Reuben's is simply a great place to eat. And they are also having some game day, opening early, TVs everywhere, college football.
That's right.
Fiesta.
Giving away prizes and whatnot. What a prize it is to be sponsored also by Ivy O'Sullivan Healthcare Services. At Ivy O'Sullivan, they are more than just chiropractors. Since 1977, this family-owned business located in downtown Spartanburg has been helping people with techniques other than typical twisting and popping that can sometimes make people nervous about trying a chiropractor. I've been a patient my entire life, and I take my own children there as well. If you have an ache or pain, give Ivy O'Sullivan Healthcare a try, and if you mention the Fun Fans Podcast, they will donate 100% of your initial evaluation cost to their charity of the month. So call them at 864-583-3967 or find them at ivyosullivan.com to feel better and function at your best. And I definitely recommend Ivy O'Sullivan. I have a coworker that's probably going to be needing a chiropractor, but she lives all the way up here like in Traveler's Rest or something. So not sure about that one, but hey, could be worth the drive. So anyway, Baylor, we had a bye week, of course. The Clemson Tigers did. We want to talk more about, best thing to do with your free time in the fall in a minute. But let's get straight to some of the football.
Okay.
All right? Were you able? Bits and pieces myself. My daughter had a volleyball tournament. So watching a lot on my phone, a little bit catching here and there between games and some in the evening. But did you get a chance to watch any games?
I watched some. I was able to see the majority of the South Carolina game, then watched some of the Bama game, and then didn't turn on Wake at Ole Miss because by the time I could turn it on, it was over.
Yeah, 2 or 3 point score. So all right. So just I have first on my list, I have that Georgia-Kentucky game. That was an extremely close, very good game. And how many times do we need to point out that after 3 weeks now, including the Clemson game when everybody was all up in arms, no one has still scored a touchdown against that Georgia defense.
Right. And they even said on halftime of that game in the studio that, hey, they played a little slow in the first half, but yet they still played slow in week 1 against Clemson. So, Georgia's good.
Georgia's really good.
But I did not see them struggling with Kentucky the way that they did.
Did not either, and that cost them the number 1 spot in the AP poll if you saw that come out. But I definitely saw Kentucky. We could sit here and talk about a lot of things forever, but this is the big picture. The big message in college football is the parity, and you can't tell. You can never tell who's going to do what week to week. South Carolina goes up there. Kind of makes you think Kentucky was looking past South Carolina, which is obviously a mistake. So folks have probably hopefully learned their lesson. And, that's a credit to South Carolina and their team. But you can't look ahead to another team. I mean, that's old school kind of stuff. Everybody should know that. So if they did that, that's unfortunate for them. They ended up with 2 losses instead of just 1. But what should that have cost Bama the number 1 spot?
Georgia?
In the AP, I'm sorry, Georgia, the number 1 spot in the AP poll.
Well, I mean, it did.
Yeah. And not like it matters at this point in the season anyway. So, all right, very good. That was, I'm glad it was a good game, to be honest with you. I was just pulling for Georgia to to not have any touchdowns scored against them. And, since they beat us, we're definitely pulling for Georgia. We hope they go undefeated, right?
Yeah, I mean, or, I don't have a lot of love for Georgia. I don't care what they do, but it's only one game. You lose one game, it doesn't matter what the score is, 13-12 or 38-0. It's the same thing.
Yeah. All right.
It's one loss.
I accidentally said Bama. They're obviously still a good team, but I heard a lot of the talking heads, Wisconsin's not the Wisconsin of old.
Right.
But still, you go up there and you beat any Power 5 team by like 40-something points or whatever it was on the road, then, you're still Bama. So Bama's still Bama.
Speed.
Yeah. They were way, way faster. And you brought up Wake and Ole Miss. Why in the world would Wake schedule? They got a home and home, and hopefully we'll make some money. This was scheduled like 6 years ago when Ole Miss wasn't all that great, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's an odd matchup, and I'm sure Wake Stadium was packed. But it is odd, but where people are going out now, and there's a lot of ACC, SEC matchups taking place.
Notice that. We Auburn and Georgia, and like I say, when that game was scheduled, more than likely was when Wake was competing to win the ACC, and when Ole Miss was, not even the fourth or fifth team in the SEC West. So, but Ole Miss looks good now. They look good now.
Yeah,
that's for sure. And that was a good game for those fans. And one thing we know about being at Wake, if you're a fan, is that the Porta-Johns are numbered. So I wonder if they picked up on that.
Yes,
I'm sure they did. All right, Boston College. What I come out of Saturday saying is they're for real. Even though they didn't beat Missouri, if they're a top 10, Missouri is supposedly a top 10 team, and played them to a 6-point game at their place. So,
well, Missouri's really good.
Yeah.
And Boston College I think, is pretty good too. Yep. And they led for a large part of that game.
Yep.
So,
Boston College, from way it's early, still real early. But I mean, it was weird. We've got 3 games in, but the 2 with everybody having 2 opens, 2 buys this year, a lot of teams only have 2 games. So we're kind of 3 weeks in, 3.5 weeks in, if you count the week 0. But there are a handful of teams like Clemson that only have 2 games on the schedule, so it might take a little longer to get a good look. But right now, BC, Georgia Tech, Miami, hopefully Clemson for sure, still the teams to beat in the ACC. And maybe Pitt got a big win. But now they pulled it out against – that was an exciting game. And I've been to a game at Pitt. You're in the Steelers Stadium, so that's pretty cool. And they had to come from behind to beat West Virginia, and that's a rival game.
Yeah, big rivalry.
All these mix, the way the conferences have done a lot of the rival games. The Apple Cup was played yesterday. So a lot of rival games that probably used to be at the end of the season are now.
Colorado State was played yesterday.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll never have to play South Carolina. That would be very, talk about breaking tradition. That would be extremely hard to settle in the brain here. But that was a very good game. And I think it was a big win for Pitt. West Virginia's, I don't know if they were ranked at all. I know they were not in the top 10. I still think that's a big win for Pittsburgh and their program.
Well, it would be tough at Pittsburgh because you don't have a stadium. You have to play at the Steelers field. You have to, it's just tough.
Yeah.
It's like Miami.
Yep. All right. Going on down the list. Speaking of big wins, how about those Memphis Tigers?
Was it a big win?
Well,
I mean,
I think it was a big win for Memphis for 1.4 million reasons.
Right.
They went to Tallahassee, collected their check with a dub, and took it on back to the house. So Florida State's 0-3. I mean, and I'm not dissing on Memphis. They're a group of 5 team. We talked about App State last week. You can't sleep on those guys. But the close losses to Georgia Tech, the kind of close loss to BC. 0-3 though. They've had 3 chances to win and they haven't won nothing.
More importantly, there are empty bleachers.
Oh man!
Again at Florida State.
Yes.
Think about how tough that place was to play back when they were rolling.
Well, and we're going to keep bringing it up here. I don't think Bailey will mind, but and I need some numbers. We're going to have to do some digging, and maybe we'll know for sure at the end of this year. But the theory, my theory, at least our theory of live by the portal, die by the portal, we will see who replaces their starters. I'm going to say at least 30% or more, in that 30 to 50% range, with portal players. And yes, they may do good one year, but let's see how they do 2 consecutive years.
Right.
And compared to before the whole portal situation. So that would be some interesting research. But Florida State is the poster child for live by the portal, die by the portal already.
Yeah, and I mean, what is it like if I'm a kid in high school and they're recruiting me? I'm not going there because I know that if they're going to bring in a whole crop of older players every year if they keep doing it. I mean, we've talked about this over and over and over. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like if I'm building a program, I'm doing it exactly the way the Tigers do it.
Yep. So, and most of the other teams, that's what, Georgia, I think 3 of their starters are the 3. They, some you can count on one hand number of portal players, and the media leaves them alone. Dabo talks to a handful, and none of them work out, and he's the worst thing since sliced bread. But
right.
Speaking of college football in the state of Florida, woo. Bill, are Napier's days numbered in the swamp?
Yeah.
All right,
there's not too many wins on the schedule.
You and I wouldn't do this. We don't like this, but he's in a situation where it's just there's already talk, according to College Football Final on ESPN, the donors at the University of Florida have already raised the buyout. Do you know what his buyout is?
It's in the 20 millions.
$26 million. Holy cow.
Nice Austin Powers reference.
Yes. I mean, that is and you're 3 weeks in and they are already raising that money. The seat doesn't get much hotter than that.
Yeah.
So, and I hate it for him. But now we make it to our Gamecock friends down in Columbia. That's a heartbreaker. You say you watched the majority of that. What are your thoughts on that game?
Well, I fell asleep fourth quarter. Took a little nap.
Did you wake up before the end?
No, I haven't gone back and watched it.
Oh.
But I did see the highlights.
Yeah.
Look, when we're sitting at the golf course and the first part of the game is on after we play golf and all the Carolina fans are, having a big time, I said, the game is 4 quarters. And you have to play all 4 of them. And yes, injuries are part of college football. And I made the comment, I think I made the comment either last week or earlier in the day on Saturday. I said, the quarterback's good, but if you keep running it over all the time, or he's going to get banged up.
Mm-hmm.
He happened to get banged up on a pass play where he wasn't running the ball. But, hey, it is what it is.
Hey, they look good. They look good until he got hurt, and they still looked okay. And that's 2 weeks in a row. They didn't look good the first week. And so you can go back to the way college football's shaping up these first 3 weeks. Old Dominion game, in my opinion, Old Dominion don't fumble the ball twice in the fourth quarter. They beat South Carolina.
Right.
Also of the opinion that coming out with a victory has probably helped the Gamecocks these past 2 weeks. They need to not let one loss turn into 2, the old coaching thing about that. But I mean, I think if their quarterback wouldn't have got hurt, they would have went on to win that game. But like you say, it's definitely part of the game. And not everybody has 2 starting quarterbacks on their team like Texas. They just replaced and kept going this past Saturday. But I want to point out one thing that I saw after the game, talking about the fans. They talked a lot about the referees. That one call on the return, the interception return for a touchdown that got called back. They called, oh man, it's not blocking the back. It was
Well, so according to Gamecock Central, Shane Beamer has asked for some clarifications on several calls from the referees.
Well, there was a pass interference supposedly, and I mean, I'm telling you, you can't play a game without a pass interference call being questionable. Block back, blindside block. There was not a block in the back. And see that I think that's where the Carolina fans are getting. And listen, let me preface this by saying I would be the same way if I saw that game and that was my team and that was Clemson, and we ran it back and then I saw that replay. I'd be so mad. That's blah blah blah. The quarterback, they're just doing that to protect the quarterback. But I went this morning and I got a little clarification. Shane Beamer, all he's got to do is Google it. I looked it up. The blindside block rule came in 2019. And it's not like the days of old where when you and I were coaching football and playing, it's all about just keeping your head in front of the person you're blocking. As long as your head's in front, it's legal. You can knock the total hound out of them. And it don't matter who was going where or what they were looking at. But now a blindside block is illegal. So if you're not in that defender's vision,
right?
If you're not in their line of vision when you hit them, that is an illegal block. And it's for the safety of the players. And I hate to say it, but the way that game was going, it was sloppy. There was 17 penalties between the two teams for 300 yards or something crazy. That's a little bit of exaggeration, but that's what that rule was. It was a blindside block. So it was the right call. And it's just not something that the refs are going to let go. But this is what I thought was interesting. We're going to kind of reference on college football final. Again, we've done this. Is what we said. That's the show I watch on Sunday morning to catch anything I missed on ESPN, and they gave all the highlights. They talked about how that was one of the best games of the day, blah, blah, blah. No mention of the referees and any kind of close calls. No mention of the quarterback being hurt and that being a difference in the game either. So I thought that was kind of interesting that, I thought that made a big difference, but
just to be clear, Beamer is not blaming the officials.
Right.
And he went on to say, he says, I've talked to our players and we just have to get better. The officials did not cause us to jump off sides. They did not cause us to lose leverage on a zero blitz. They didn't cause us to miss tackles. They didn't cause us to fumble, so, that's what coaches, I used to try to get my players with. The referees are doing the best they can.
Yeah.
And they're going to make a call and half the stadium's going to hate it. And the other half's going to like it. That's on every call.
Well, and especially with a call like this blindside block, I'm just going to be honest. That's kind of news to me. I've been out of the coaching. If that's a rule now, this is the 5th year it's in place.
Yeah.
I've been watching football for 50 years. So
you can't light them up like you used to.
Yeah, you can't light them up like you used to. But and so the thing is, and I still the Gamecock fans, in my opinion, they still might have a right to be upset. You should be if you're going to be mad at somebody, you need to be mad at the coaches and the players for not coaching the team. That's a 5-year. They should know that player hadn't been in college for 5 years. They should know that you can't do that. That basically you got to be looking straight at them to hit the guy. Honestly, I've thought about it. You almost have to teach some blocking situations where it's almost like setting it. Just get in his way.
Or just run up to him and put your hands up.
Yeah. It's more like setting a pick in basketball.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We've talked about this in many different facets. They are kids. It is a wide open football game. Right. I don't know that I see a guy coming, coach told me to block, and what if he turned his head when I was approaching him to block? So it's as long as you make mistakes going wide open, you live with the whatever happens.
That's true.
But so things happen.
And that was unfortunate. And South Carolina still had the ball in the lead with less than 6 minutes to go after that.
Yeah, so, the thing that blows my mind is that people blame the referees for losing. This is any game, not just that game.
Yeah.
Come on, man. They blame if they don't blame the refs, they want to fire the coach. If they don't want to fire the coach, they yell at the quarterback the whole game. Okay, nobody can hear you. Nobody can hear you. Pull for your team. Shut your mouth.
Hey, don't take the fanatic out of the fan.
Right.
All right, but speaking of something else we talked about before, if you were asleep, you missed it. So I'm going to fill you in. We'll talk about it more later. The fans were setting themselves up to storm the field. It was coming. They were about to get this big win against LSU, and they were going to storm the field and cost South Carolina $500,000. even though they don't have an AD to write a check right now. I'm sorry. We'll bring that up.
He's still the AD.
We might bring that up
find
later
a replacement.
Too. Yeah. So, but we all know we're going to have to eventually talk again about, and hope nobody gets hurt this year with all the storming of the fields. All right, but hate it for the Gamecocks. Don't know who they have next week, but best of luck to them again. We'll see. Moving on to how we talked about the parity and how things are going. It's still too early. Don't you think it's too early? I know you think it's too early to tell who's good and who's not.
Yeah, I mean, you can start to see, but it's like the NFL. I mean,
you think it's closer? I mean, a top 10
like the
team.
NFL, like now in the NFL, you don't know who's going to win from week to week because the Bengals got beat last week by New England, who was not supposed to win 3 games on the year. Then they go to Kansas City, and they really should have won. But they interfered with the pass receiver on 4th and 16.
I think he was making a play on the ball.
It was interference. He ran through the player.
Yeah.
There's nobody can – if Bengals fans are sitting around drowning their sorrows talking about the referee, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. He messed up. They had him too. Had him on the ropes. But anyway, lots of – so that's good. That's what we were shooting for in college football? More parity. You know, can't tell who's going to win from week to week. But now we need to remember that as fans. You know, we think Clemson can finish and go 11-1, and they can. And I'm going to say they should. But if they don't, that because somebody's going to roll up in here and have a good day when Clemson's having a bad day or something like that, and it might be another L, and that's just college football.
There's going to be a game that it's the national championship year. They had to pull out a game at home against Syracuse.
Well, speaking of that takes me back to Georgia for a minute. There's always, when Clemson was winning, you know, making it to the playoffs and beating everybody to death, there was always one game that they would either lose or almost lose.
Right.
At least one.
And so Georgia won that game yesterday. That was their game.
That was it. That's
so far.
That might be it. So, all right. So anyway, no TDs. Have I said that nobody's still scored a touchdown against Georgia's defense?
Right.
All right. Another reminder about that. And, you know, not to keep bringing it up, but, you know, the group of 5 stuff about how we put a whooping on App State. They turned around and won yesterday. So
beat undefeated East Carolina on the road.
Yeah. So App State knows how to play football, and, you know, Clemson opened a can on them. So maybe Clemson's actually pretty good. And another thing, Toledo beat Mississippi State. Did you see that?
No. Georgia State beat Vandy.
Georgia State beat Vanderbilt. That's like that just can't tell. You can't sleep on anybody. All right, so we're gonna stop with all that. We're gonna move on to our opponent for this Saturday because we're running out of time to make it to the fun part of our segment. So NC State also seems to be. Just give me your analysis on our opponent for this Saturday, Bailey.
I don't know. The spread's 16.5, opening up at 16.5. I just given the recent history of these games, I don't think that would be a good idea.
It's the Textile Bowl. Nobody just lays down in the Textile Bowl.
Nah. But NC State is not playing great.
They are not.
But he'll have them ready. Old Boren Doran.
Yeah, it's like we talk about looking ahead. That based on who they played, they probably practiced all summer talking about nobody but Clemson.
Right.
And in my day, I don't care if we were opening the season with the best team on our schedule or the worst team on our schedule. We didn't talk about any team except that team we were playing.
Well, that would have been dumb since they already played Tennessee.
Yeah. Well, so NC State, yeah, that's true. So NC State, this past week, we know they struggled in their opening game. They were down 17-6 at halftime against Louisiana Tech. They were tied at the end of the third quarter, but they ended up winning by 10. And I will say this though, and I'm gonna because I got confidence in. I think we should win. We definitely should win. And if we get up on those guys, if we're winning, I don't think we're going to be a team that they're going to come back on like they've done some of these other schools.
I say leave the starters in.
There you go.
Let's make sure it's over.
All right, so like I said, on to some of the more important stuff. It is a noon kickoff, so we got to plan our tailgate, Bailey, because that's what this is a Fun Fans podcast. NC State fans, come find us. We don't even know. This is one thing. Listen,
we don't even know where we're parking.
We don't even know where we're parking. So shame on Iptay. There's more to that story, but we're going to be somewhere, hopefully in our same spot we were at last week on the corner of Centennial Extension and Perimeter Road. So what are we doing? This is noon. We're doing breakfast, I guess, right?
I mean, yeah, we're gonna have to have a little bit of food before the game.
Breakfast sliders, a little casserole, sausage and cheese.
Sure.
Yeah. The only real question with the 12 o'clock game is, do we leave afterwards and go to Rubens, or do we stay in tailgate right there at the car again and, enjoy the rest of the Saturday in Clemson?
That'll be to be determined.
That's a TBD right there. But
I'll probably be ready to come home.
Enjoy the tailgate, the noon kickoff. I know we usually don't like noon kickoffs. I really did like I used to not like night games. I really liked the night game. But honestly, looking at our schedule, assuming Clemson continues to win, we don't have that big home game on our schedule that might get us another 3:30 or primetime game. I don't see ABC putting us in Stanford at anywhere but noon, maybe.
Even though that'd be 9 a.m. Stanford time?
It would be. Those guys would be all jet lagged. We don't even have like the Miami, the ones I named earlier, the Miami, the BC, the Georgia Tech.
Well, the best chance is at Virginia Tech, but that's on the road.
Yeah. So the home games for us. But
one game at a time.
We're going to figure out how to enjoy the tailgate breakfast stuff. Breakfast, cheese and eggs and sausage before the game is always a good and some pastries. Got to have some nice pastries.
All I need is like a biscuit.
You know what we all need?
Some energy.
Some energy, no matter what, especially for a 12 o'clock game. Go to w.gg, order your Jitterless energy drink. Get 10% off by entering promo code FUNFANS, and you will make it through no matter what time the kickoff is. All right, so here we are with our segment that we advertised, saved the best for last, things to do during a bye week. So like I said, my daughter had a volleyball tournament. Bailey played golf. That's per the normal. Did you do anything besides play golf?
No. I mean, I got to watch some football.
So here's the Fun Fans list of things that you should plan. And I mean, anybody. If you're planning something in the fall, this is what you should plan during your local college team's bye week. Volleyball tournaments, weddings, bar mitzvahs, family reunions, fall festivals. The list goes on and on. Basically, you should plan everything on the bye week. Don't be planning that stuff when there's not a bye week for your local home football team.
Trim the hedges.
Yeah, trim the hedges. Yeah, yard work and that kind of thing, even though I didn't get a chance to do that. So the tips here, the tips for life here on the Fun Fans podcast. You're welcome.
That's right.
All right. You got a quick O's update for us, Bailey?
Yeah, they're struggling a little bit right now, but we're gonna be all right.
All right.
Still solidly in the playoffs.
Sounds good.
With a couple weeks to go.
Yeah, just when's it start? When's playoffs start?
They have
end of September.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, we'll be listening. All right. So, like Bailey mentioned, Rubens is doing special stuff for college football fans. They're opening early. They're doing drawings and all that kind of stuff. So check out whichever Rubens is closer to you this Saturday. If you're not going to the game, don't forget about our spinoff show, Southeast High School Highlights, every Wednesday night to highlight a student athlete from Spartanburg, Grimmel College, Clover High School, and Landrum High School. That's Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock. So that show's been going really well. So tell the folks of those schools to make sure they listen. And that's pretty much all we have for this evening. Bailey, you got anything else? No.
Ready for another Tiger win this Saturday.
Ready for another tailgate this Saturday. Hope you enjoy the show. There's one more bye week this season. So if you're going to get married or anything, that's when you need to schedule it. College football is a tight race. Get to Clemson early on Saturday, fans, but don't be parking in my space. Okay. Just don't do it. And it'll be another great weekend of college football for us. So we'll be back next Sunday. Don't forget about the Southeast High School Highlights every Wednesday. Thanks again for checking us out each and every Sunday. Don't forget to click subscribe on the Fun Fans Podcast YouTube channel. as well as your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on social media and share on behalf of the Fun Fans Podcast, J Thriller Entertainment, the Fanboys Fangirls Podcast Network, and Bailey Jackson.
Hey, Dave Doran, I'll see you Saturday.
See you Saturday. And don't be sitting in our seats either, by the way.
In the valley. That's right. Stay out of my seats.
Thanks for listening.